Let's continue on with Soleman. We're getting about midpoint in the book, so let's get her done. This chapter is Soleman dips his toe in real police work. Soleman and Flats were discussing the best way to handle a case like this, and this is the case they're talking about is a previous robbery at the Foothill Bank, the first Foothill Bank, or second Foothill Bank, and that nobody could give a description of the robber except they were 5'2" dressed in some bland colored clothes and had short hair. So they haven't done anything with this case, so the commissioner suggested that the chief of police send Soleman out on this one. So obviously normal police procedures didn't elicit any beneficial information. Soleman considered a more relaxed approach might work. Dressing carefully, they looked dapper but professional when they went to the bank. Perry approached the accounts manager and opened a small account. While Perry was talking to the accounts manager, Opus looked for a teller to talk to. Choosing one who looked bored out of his mind, he approached. Exchanging a 20 for some 5s and 1s, he opened up the conversation. When the teller handed over the change, Opus leaned on the counter and looked around. Thanks. Pretty quiet in here. Teller groaned. Yeah, between 9 and noon, it's always dead here. Noon we're kept hopping with customers doing business on their lunch break. We're expected to work at top speed from noon to 1:30. Oldfish sympathized. Must make it hard for you being bored and then having to put on a burst of activity. The teller shrugged. It's all in the game. Oldfish looked thoughtful. During the quiet times, there we go. I got it back. During the quiet times, and I'm trying to find my spot. During the quiet times, you think the guard would be out here. That's a perfect time for someone to try and hold the place up. Tar looked cautiously at Oldfish, but seeing only his open, friendly face, he relaxed. Yeah, but I hear they've only had one robbery. Imagine the guy came in to rob the place, but they were so nondescript that nothing registered. From what I heard, the face had nothing to grasp onto, just a plain, ordinary face. I mean, how could you describe it? They talked for a while more, after which Oldfish talked to a few other people. After getting what he could, he went outside to wait on Perry. Perry had gotten pretty much the same story of a nondescript individual whose clothes were also bland to the point of not being remembered. Perry had Oldfish wait in the car while he went to the back trunk. He worked with the makeup kit for a while, and when he came out, his handsome features were nowhere to be seen. His face had no distinguishing features at all. It simply was not memorable. The only thing people would remember was his natty suit. As an experiment, Perry went down the street staggering slightly and bumped into people. Oldfish followed and questioned the ones he had bumped into and asking for a description. Well, they knew the suit, but not the face. Their suspicions were confirmed. Whoever had robbed the bank had either been born with a nondescript face or a good knowledge of theatrical makeup and psychology. Seated in a nearby diner, they ate a light breakfast and discussed possibilities. Well, if we take it as read that the culprit was a seasoned thespian, then we should look to the theaters locally, see if we can discover their identity. Well, sounds reasonable, Perry, but how do we get in? Generally, theaters are closed except for performances, and they certainly don't allow people in during rehearsals. Perry agreed. True. However, a well-filled wallet can sometimes procure admittance when no other source prevails. Finishing breakfast, they went in search of the closest of the two theatrical houses in the area. A crisp 50 gained them entrance from the guard at the door. They were reminded not to disturb the actors, but were more than welcome to inspect the rest of the theater. As an accomplished thespian himself, Perry needed no guidance to locate the makeup department. Below the stage, a third door on the left. It was open, displaying a young man creating his aged face for the second scene. Perry and Oedipus stood across from the door, admiring the subtle workmanship. He used no padding to flesh out the cheeks or to make his neck appear sagging. It was all accomplished with shading. As they watched, a young lady came down the stairs, divesting herself of her costume as she descended. Seated in another makeup chair, she began her own transformation. A lack of talent or for makeup or preferring artificial aids, she used prosthetics to age herself. She added a false neck, putty to her nose and cheeks, then placed makeup over it all. Paul, I envy you. You can do so much with your makeup that you don't need to use these damn rubber devices. Wish you'd teach me how to age myself like you do. The man looked over at her in the mirror. Perhaps I will if you would do me the honor of having dinner with me some evening. She laughed contemptuously. You never have any money. I'd end up being the one to pay the bill. He pointed towards the window behind them with his thumb. No? I'll take a gander out the window at my new car. She looked out at a sleek roadster parked near the back door. Her brow furrowed. How the hell did you afford that? Oh, I came upon a tidy little sum recently and figured on getting a few necessities. When one is a well-known star of the stage, one has a certain prestige to maintain. She rolled her eyes, thinking with that large of an ego, he'd need a bigger car. Finishing her makeup, she thought about his offer of dinner. Well, where did you consider for us to go for dinner? To Chez Frank's, one of the most exclusive places to get into around here. I have certain connections, though, that allow me access whenever I desire to dine sumptuously. She cast a raised eyebrow in his direction, unsure if he was serious or not. Well, think about it, she mumbled as she finished her makeup. Divesting herself of the rest of her costume, there was a brief, heart-lifting moment when her glorious figure was momentarily revealed, only to be shrouded in the matronly dress. Her lustrous hair disappeared beneath the gray wig. Perry was impressed. She had accomplished her transformation with almost no effort and gone from a beautiful young lady to an aged spinster in moments. Though amateurs, these thespians had the talents of professionals. Paul was finishing up and dusting himself off. Looking at his watch, he set the timer on the table. 15 minutes should be enough. With 15 minutes at his disposal, he lay in the seat and composed himself to sleep. Perry and Oedipus entered, making a slight noise as they did so. Paul raised one eyelid and, seeing two men arriving, took off his cloth around his neck, stood, and extended a hand. Oedipus sat on his bench by the wall, crossed his legs, and relaxed while Perry took the lead. We apologize if we are disturbing you, but having heard of your theatrical attainments, and we wanted to inquire if you were available to perform a one-man show. Paul almost lost his calm demeanor in his excitement. Hell, I'd love it! When and what show? Perry pointed at Oedipus. My friend here has written a production of Diary of a Nobody in 3 acts, and we are looking for a lead. We wanted to see if you were interested. We're still short 15,000, but to put the show on. But if we can say we have you signed up, we should be able to come up with the rest soon. Paul was practically drooling at the thought of an entire production with himself alone on the stage. Tell you what, I've got a few thousand in the bank and can get the rest in a day or two. He wrote out a check and again promised the remainder by the end of the week. Perry wrote out a receipt and handed it over. Turning, he handed the check to Oedipus. Will you deposit this in our account at the First National Bank tomorrow? Sure, but I may have to wait up for a while. They're prepping for receiving the monthly salary for the police department and local government. The place is buttoned up tight. Perry smote his forehead and scoffed. I forgot. They have all these precautions, and a bank a child could knock over with a feather. What time is the deposit supposed to go in? Well, about 3 o'clock tomorrow. Turning again, he addressed Paul. I'll have a contract drawn up so that instead of just the salary, you will also receive 15% of the receipts. Will that be sufficient? Certainly. Where can I get in touch with you? Perry was about to hand over a card, but his own would not be appropriate for this persona. I have to check on a couple of productions out of town. I called you here Friday. Paul was more than agreeable and walked the men to the foot of the stairs. Climbing up to the rear of the stage, he prepared for his entrance. His thoughts about his one-man show almost caused him to make the late arrival. Outside, the two walked away, curious whether Paul would rise to the bait. In the meantime, they had preparations to make in case he tried to steal the payroll. Sergeant Podolsky was invited to a council of war. He was to be their link with the official force. Podolsky was to operate on his own. Soleman and Flats would be above the bank on the roof, ready to swing down if Paul should make the attempt. Podolsky could either assist with the capture or call in reinforcements if he felt it was justified. In the offices of the shoe factory, another council was in progress. Harry had a map of the bank's locations with marks indicating where each man was to arrive from, and also where each man was to make his escape to. He had timed it with his men to the second. The bikes were stored inside the factory, ready for deployment. Harry double-checked that everything and every eventuality was accounted for. What do we know about the police? Big Toe would assure him that the police would not arrive immediately. Well, how about in Soleman and Flats? Again, they were assured that Soleman was out on a fool's mission trying to clear up a month-old robbery the police had given up on. With everything set, the men went downstairs and mounted their bicycles ready for the off. The third part of this triangle was below the stage at the Florsheim Theater. Paul was working on his makeup to make his features as nondescript as possible. A washed-out pair of khakis and shirt, and he was a bland nonentity. No one would give him a first glance, much less a second one. With a folded bag tucked into his shirt, he squared his shoulders and left by the back door, ready to steal the money he needed to make his dream come true. A leading part in a one-man show and dinner with a glamorous woman. If he had to break the law again to secure these items, then so be it. The ends justify the means. Next chapter is Criminals Converge, so that will be in a couple of days. Until then, I look forward to seeing you. I hope you'll be here for our next reading. Be good and be good to yourself. You take it easy. Bye.